Of legislation, workers by no means wanted to really put in a claim, but they're reading these letters thinking, God, what have we got myself into? They go off to the doctor, and the doctor's thinking, geez, doesn't look good, physio's saying the same. All of a sudden this worker is a little bit confused and concerned and worried. Didn't mean to get caught up in the scheme. But what he needs, and what the opportunity for an employer is to map out a positive return to work process. Because we've seen time and time again, I reckon we've all got examples here, that a person who's completely legitimate can get caught up in a scheme and involved, and that can happen pretty quickly. So they need a positive path forward. And we talk about a lot of the WorkSafe ads really frustrating on TV. But the return to work, return to life, you need that normalisation. Now again, flag that to your harmony, the fact is that leaving him at home actually is detrimental to their workability. So what can they do? I mean, there's duties out there, as long as he doesn't squat, doesn't do heavy lifting, doesn't twist or turn, he could do other work. With his left knee, he could possibly drop the ute, automatic ute instead of a manual, and go from there. If this guy's been there for 10 or 15 years, a lot of experience, and Ray and I were just talking about this on how to buddy people up with more experienced people, so you can pass that knowledge on. A great way of making it a suitable, meaningful return to work. So we're now legislating under Section 195 to move and move quickly. So you don't have a choice legally. What we see often is you get this injury, certificate, who's seen this certificate capacity, unfit for all work, goes back 2 weeks later or a month later, unfit, unfit, unfit. And you're scratching your head, you're trying to ring the doctor, nothing much is happening. You know you've got duties and this occurs. The fact is, when you've had the incident, you've got 10 calendar days to get the claim form, and again I'm talking from a work cover perspective here, the claim form into the insurer. 10 days is a long time to get a lot done. So I think you've got to think positively in this aspect and treat it as an opportunity, not an issue. So within that 10 days, you need to move quickly. How do we help? You invite, the employer invites, write a nice written letter on the employer's letterhead, not a third party rehabilitation provider or not the work cover insurer, it's on your letterhead, to participate in an assessment of their capacity. So if it's a mental injury, so it's depression, anxiety, whatever it may be, it would be an initial needs assessment. If it's a physical condition, a functional capacity evaluation by an occupational therapist, and that happens on site and very quickly. Within this, we've now got the workability index that can be plugged into it, and you get a score at the end, and you can measure the worker ongoing to see how their workability is improving along the way. The worker sees the occupational therapist, they run the assessment, lo and behold, they'll find capacity. We haven't found too many people over the years that are totally and permanently incapacitated for work. The treating doctors might think they are, because that's what the certificate's saying, but most of these people have a capacity they can't be written off for work. So the assessment's conducted by the occupational therapist. The OT then goes and contacts their treating doctor to agree on capacity. Sometimes you can get through, sometimes you can't. That's fine. The results are filtered back to the treating doctor to say, hang on, the employer actually cares here. They're on the front foot. They're really active in the rehabilitation. They want to help this worker out. A return to work plan offers suitable duties is then created based on the results of those. The important thing here is with these plans, you need the line managers, as we were talking about, and what Rob was saying, to be actively involved. It just can't fall upon HR, just can't fall upon the OH&S department or the return to work coordinator. The line managers need to be involved and hand delivered to the worker. Again, that information is faxed back to the GP, but for comment. We then help the worker. Instead of going off to a physio, again, we've probably all seen physiotherapists treat twice a week for half a year. Can go on and get out of control pretty quickly. We've implemented a really positive self-managed exercise program, self-managed health program, depending on the case. Rocco Sarachi from our organisation does them day in, day out. Goes out and works with the staff and to teach them to self-manage, in this case, his knee. Because it's that knee, he's he's going to be taking into retirement. So you've got to look at, you can't be relying upon passive treatment role the whole time. So teach them to manage themselves. Now, what would happen if the line manager in this particular case actually knew something was wrong? So this bloke Charlie, 2 weeks earlier, is chatting to his manager and says, "Oh, hurt my knee on the weekend." "Well, what were you doing?" "I was having a kick at footy with the kids in the backyard, took this massive screamer, landed on the ground, tried to be James Hurd, fell miserably, and I hurt my left knee." "Oh, all right." So he's landed awkwardly. Charlie didn't think too much of his left knee, nor did the manager. But it didn't take too long, a couple of weeks, for that knee to get a whole lot worse when Charlie bent down, squatted down, to pick up that chainsaw. And that's where the knee goes. So that might not have been a work-related condition, but you've certainly aggravated it. So what needs to take place? Identifying early warning signs. Very important. In that circumstance, that manager knew that that person was at risk. So if he was aware of that, what should you do? It's not a work-related condition. The employer still invites the worker to mental health condition, initial needs assessment, physical condition, in this case with a knee, functional capacity evaluation, assessed by the occupational therapist. Information is fed back to the doctor if the worker is actually seeing it. May or may not be. But surprise, surprise, the rest of the process is exactly the same, except this time we don't have a return to work plan. We've got a care plan or a stay at work plan. It's a lot easier to manage someone whilst they're still within the workplace. So you really don't have to work in this space at all. I would argue, other than, I would argue 95% of the time, most incidents and injuries you can see coming. You can see coming. You've got to pick up the early warning signs.